And the last traditional Filipino games is Pitik Bulag. So I know you are familiar with it because it is commonly played by the children back when you are a child. So it is a Filipino native games which involve interaction with a real person. It only required two players to play this game. So when you are playing Pitik Bulag, it doesn't require any equipment. So it only required two players to play this game. So which means you have social interaction to other individuals. So here it is the mechanics of the game. First, player A should keep his or her eyes closed and covered one hand, which means the player A considered to be the it of the game. So he is the which we give example. For example, player A is this. Player A covered his eyes with his own hand. Next mechanics is that player B should flick the finger of the player A. When you say flick, it's going to pitik the hand of the player A. So this is the player A, and the player B would flick the hand of the player A who's covering his eyes. After that, the person with covered eyes would give a number of fingers being flashed. So after the player A being flicked by the player B, we're going to guess what specific number of fingers we're going to flash, whether one, two, three, four, or whether five fingers. So the onlookers are the judge of the game. So the audience of the game are considered to be the judges in order to identify whether the player A gets the right number of fingers. And next is that player A whose eyes are covered would guess the number of finger being flashed him or her. So he will going to identify what number of finger. So if he in the first try he or she did not guess the number of finger, they will cover his eyes again. After that, he going to flick by player B, so on and so forth until he guess the number of fingers. So if player A guesses it right, they will exchange position, so on and so forth. So for example, player B flicked the hand of player A and he guessed the number of fingers. So they will exchange position, so on and so forth until they decided to end the game. For you to understand more the mechanics of playing Pitik Bulag, I prepared some video clips for you to understand. So here it is. So that's the end of our lesson for today. I hope you learned something. So since we finished tackling about the traditional Filipino games, so those four traditional games that we tackle, Lusong Baka, Pitik Bulag, Takip Silim, and Luksong Lubid. So we have going to have activities. So form two groups and they would play one traditional games that we tackle, and they should follow the instruction and mechanics of the game. So which means we're going to divide you into two groups, and then after that, after you find your group, you will choose one traditional games that we tackle, and you should follow the instruction and the mechanics of the game. So let's start with Dayan.
15 minutes later.
So I was so happy that you perform and you follow the instruction that we tackled earlier. So which means you understand the mechanics and the rules of the game. So for you and able to identify how your knowledge is, we will going to have examination. So get 1/2 sheet of paper crosswise. Yes, 1/2 sheet of paper crosswise. So the exam is in test 1. So kindly pass the test paper for the test 1. So the content of test 1 is that batching type, which means you should on the column A there are the definition of the column B. So you should connect it what specific definition of this. And also in the next test 2 essay 10 points. So why we should give importance to our traditional games. So you should explain it, why it's so important to give to our traditional games. So I will give you 15 minutes to answer. No cheating. So finish or not finish, pass your test paper and answer sheet at the count of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Thank you. Before we end our class, I will give you some assignments, so kindly copy it at the board. In a one whole sheet of paper, write some traditional games that you used to play and write it how it affects you as a child to play those specific games. And what are the positive effects after you play that game. So I will give you 5 minutes to copy it.
5 minutes later.
So let's end our class here. Thank you for active participation and I hope you learn a lot from our class discussion for today. Goodbye. See you tomorrow.